Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. This is our take. We are your hosts. I'm Ocean.
I'm Taylor.
I'm Connor.
And ladies and gentlemen, to kick off the week, we got a review slash breakdown of Guy Ritchie's newest film titled The Covenant. This film came out on April 21st, and unfortunately, just due to schedule constraints, we weren't able to get you guys our review until now. We are pretty excited about this. We're going to dive into it, give you guys some spoiler-free content first, dive into some scores, and then we'll get into the spoilers and talk about what we did and didn't like. Before we do that, though, I'll let Taylor run you guys through the cast list real quick and let you know who is starring in this film.
Yeah, honestly, it's not very long. Two biggest stars are Jake Gyllenhaal and Dar Salim. Jake Gyllenhaal plays the character of Sergeant John Kinley, and Dar Salim is Ahmed. He's the interpreter that is in this.
Yeah. Those are really the bulk of the story focuses on them, so everybody else is real minor characters. There is one other person that is pretty notable, or at least recognizable to most people, and that's the one staff sergeant friend of his that I can't remember the actor's name, but he's Bjorn Ironside from Vikings.
Also, the guy who plays Homelander in The Boys is in this movie.
Never
is he
seen
really?
either of those, so I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, he plays the PMC captain guy.
Oh, the was it Walker? No,
Yeah.
Walker.
Something like
Yeah,
that.
it is Walker. Yeah.
It is Walker?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's like it's Walker or Carter. I don't know.
I don't remember. You,
Parker.
Parker. That's the name. But yeah, those are some pretty notable guys as well. So, but that's your guys' cast list, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll get into you guys some spoiler-free content right now. So, starting with you, Connor, just an overall, how you're feeling about the movie, what your general thoughts are for this movie. Connor, sorry.
Yeah. I liked it. I thought it was very had a lot of gravitas, a lot of emotional, heavy moments. There's a lot of like hold your breath moments.
Yeah.
You could feel the tension. Not only coming from the movie but in the theater. I didn't hear anybody talk one time during this movie, which is pretty. Which is pretty
good.
It's always a good
but
thing.
it's pretty like surprising because
it's a good sign.
a lot of the recent movies I've seen, I mean, there's at least some kind of noise going on.
Mm-hmm.
But besides that, I think like the certain military action scenes were done really well for not being portrayed in a video game and instead in a movie. I'll talk about more about that in the spoilers. But there was one thing about this movie that I really didn't like that kind of brought it down for me. But besides that, it was a very heavy movie, but it was definitely a good movie to watch.
Okay. Taylor, what about you, man?
So real quick, I just want to say, as far as my experience of watching this movie, it was kind of interesting because there was more people than I expected, and of the audience that was there, it was all older people, which I thought was interesting. So people that probably were alive for a majority of the wars that are included in this.
Yeah.
But it was just something I thought was interesting, and I enjoyed this movie a lot. I really love the story. I do really love Jake Gyllenhaal, but I have some thoughts about him later. Dar Salim, I think, did an amazing job.
Yeah,
as Ahmed. To be honest, I think he did better than Jake Gyllenhaal. But they both did good in their roles. And this is a movie that once your dad asked me if a war movie or military thing can be affected by realism and like whether it be negative or positive. This is one of those movies, and it's on the negative side.
Yeah.
And I'll be specific about it in the spoilers, but It's not so much that it just ruins the movie, but it is something that definitely is bugging me throughout the movie.
Mhm.
And there's particular reasons why, and it kind of leads into what's actually happening as far as the story goes and stuff. But
Mhm.
overall, I thought this was a great movie.
Okay. Yeah, I'm somewhere in the middle. I enjoyed the movie. I really enjoyed the story. I really enjoyed the message that they were trying to convey, especially with the things that they put on the screen at the end and whatnot. And it really drives home some points and some themes that they were trying to harp on throughout the movie. Uh, I too have some issues with certain things that about military procedures and just some things that would probably go over a lot of people's heads. But you know, I have some issues for that, but I do agree that Darsalim absolutely nailed his role of Ahmed, and would agree with you, Taylor. That I think he performed better than Jake Gyllenhaal did. Uh, he really stood out to me as being a very impressive performance by somebody that I don't have any familiarity with
Right.
prior to this movie. So I really enjoyed that, and it was a very nice surprise. Um, Ultimately, I think for me, I was just kind of wanting. I was left wanting a little bit more. Uh, they had all the pieces to the puzzle, in my opinion. It didn't really quite come to fruition, and I'll expand on that in the spoiler section. But that's kind of where I'm at. I enjoyed it. I had a fun time watching it. After I left there, unfortunately, I just kept picking it apart, on my drive home. I was just like, this and this and this. But in the moment, I did enjoy it. I had a fun time watching it. So, alrighty, let's get into some scores. Scale of 1 to 10. I'll start off. I'm sitting at a 7. I think it was solid military movie. Uh, it's also comes out at a time where like I know that we kind of talked about this in our trailer reaction when we posted it, but this is the first like Afghanistan or Iraq focused war movie that has come out since we've pulled out of Afghanistan and Iraq, and uh, it's I posed the question like, okay, are people actually going to want to watch this, or are people sick of hearing about the war and whatnot? So. Um, but I'm happy to say that my theater was pretty full, and that was a good sign for me, personally. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm sitting at a 7. What about you, Connor?
I'm also gonna give it a 7. I think overall it's a really good movie. Um, but there was one thing that brought it way down, um, for me that I'll get to in the spoilers. And it's more of a personal thing, but it's just besides that one thing though, it is a really good movie, and like you said, Ahmed, the guy who played Ahmed, he did a really amazing job
Yeah.
portraying his character, and there was a lot of emotion behind it, and this was at times a really heavy movie, and
Oh yeah, for
it
sure.
definitely had a lot of gravity, and you could cut the tension with a knife in the theater. Like nobody talked at all, even when the movie ended. It was pretty
Yeah.
crazy, but yeah. Um, Besides that one thing, I think overall it's a good movie to watch. For a military movie.
Yeah. Taylor.
I think my score for this movie would probably be an 8, which
Oh wow. Okay.
is being carried mostly by Darceline. But, uh, and I guess just the story. But there's definitely a lot of things that are left to be desired in this.
Sure. For sure. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you have our scores. You have our spoiler free thoughts. We're gonna dive into spoilers now. So if you have not seen this movie, um, I think it's worth the watch in the theater. I think anytime I keep using the word war movie, but I hate that term. But anytime you have a movie like this, I think it's always better to experience it in a theater setting. Big screen, big sound, all that stuff. So if you have the opportunity to go and watch it, I definitely recommend it. But we're gonna dive into spoilers, so if you haven't seen it, go check that out first, and then on your way home, turn it back on the spoilers, and we'll work our way through the story together. So this is gonna serve as your official.
Spoiler alert.
All right. So, what first thing I want to do real quick, just to kind of perpetuate the awareness and the overall kind of theme that I think they were trying to convey through this movie was just a little bit of awareness about interpreters and their role within the military and the military's function. You know, especially during the um, war in the Middle East. So, just want to give a shout out from Any Kind Media to all of you interpreters that helped us out at the time. We appreciate you, and I want you to know that I'm thankful for your services and for all the ones that unfortunately did not make it. You know, rest in peace. We appreciate your sacrifice and your service. So, but now let's kind of transition into some of the things that I didn't really care for about the movie, and I'll let Connor go first because I feel like his issue that he has is probably gonna kind of over or encompass a lot of the smaller things that I have issues with. So, Connor, what is the big reason that brought your score so far down?
Uh, I don't. I think I was probably not anything you guys are thinking of.
Oh,
The
okay.
biggest issue I have with this movie is the soundtrack. I hate the
Mm,
soundtrack in this movie. It is so overpowering and so over dramatized for the scenes that they put these soundtracks in that it like completely takes me out of like what's going on in the movie. And I talked about this with Haley when we left, and it was just so like a lot of the tracks just felt like so out of place in their
hmm,
volume compared to like what the scene that was happening, you know? So, like, a good example was, like, the scenes that I remember the most being the most immersed in were, like, when they're going to find the IED factory and they go, like, and they're about to, like, breach and clear the shack or whatever it is,
sure.
because there's no music. It goes silent, and then they go and do it. And then, um, the AC-130 scene where, they're just fucking AC-130ing a bunch of people. Uh, no music, and that scene stood out for me because a lot of the time the music is just so much louder than it needed to be, and it didn't really
Hmm,
feel like it was a soundtrack made by like a musician specifically for scenes in the movie. It just seemed like it was a generalized soundtrack that was made to kind of just uh, encompass s- like general emotions,
okay.
like happy or sad or angry, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I totally can understand what you're saying. Soundtracks and score are supposed to accentuate what you see on screen and add to it. It's not supposed to stand out and take the focus away from what you're seeing. So if it did that for you, I can totally understand why that would be frustrating and a negative. I don't know that I feel the same way. I There's a few times where the soundtrack seemed a little bit out of place, like the selection, but I kinda just chalked that up to it being a Guy Ritchie film, because a lot of times Guy Ritchie
Yeah,
films have very a very specific type of soundtrack and everything.
yeah,
Um, so I think that, like, as I was listening to it and as I was going through it, I was just in my head, I was like, "Oh, that's just because it's a Guy Ritchie film," and then it didn't really bother me, but I can understand how it bothered you.
yeah. Nothing against him, but I. It's just it's a personal thing. Like I just
Sure.
can't really appreciate a movie as much if like every 10 minutes they throw like a generic, uh, you know, motivational
Yeah.
soundtrack music in there, um, that is like way louder than the people talking, and I'm like, okay, what the fuck is like, I get like
Mm,
pulled out, and I'm like, okay, now I'm back to like reality, and I don't really like, I got to go back in, and then I get pulled out again and go back in. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
um, for me, that's annoying, and it sucks. So, not
Okay.
that the movie sucks, but the experience of like in my
Yeah.
head doing that is like, it really bothers me.
Yeah. No, I get that. I
I
get that.
also had a little bit of an issue with the like I don't want to say like combat, but like the combat effects in this movie a little bit. Um, there was one scene that it stood out to me was when Ahmed and his wife are like they get notified that the Taliban have found them when they're in
Yeah.
hiding, and they try to go out that back door, and he has the knife,
Yeah.
and I don't know if you notice this, but he grabs the dude and just kind of holds the knife, not like
Against
sharp
his neck.
end
Yeah.
against his neck, and then just
Yeah.
doesn't do anything, and the guy's just like, ah. It's like, okay, like he's not even stabbing him or
Yeah.
cutting him.
Or cutting his throat or
Yeah,
anything. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. That was just one example, but yeah, that was also a little like a
Breaks the immersion.
yeah, breaks the immersion, kind of a downside for me as well.
Okay. No, I get it. Taylor, what were some of your issues that you had with the film? I'm sure we kind of picked out on a few of the same ones.
A
Like
couple, but honestly, I feel like there's more that I have issues with. So the beginning of
like
the movie,
why is the
because you're
lieutenant colonel walking through the chow hall with his hands in his pockets?
because he's a lieutenant colonel. That's why. Uh, you've seen this most recently out of all of us.
Yeah, yeah. I just
There
got out
was
of. I
nothing
just
in the
finished.
beginning that states who they are or what they do. Correct.
Yeah. So very very good point. Very good point.
And so this is a major thing for me personally because even though I know if I go and read about the movie, it will then describe to me, oh, he is a former special forces like operator, blah 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 blah.
Right.
Okay. But they don't tell you that
Mhm.
specifically in the movie. And the reason why this is a major problem is because they tell you other things which are fucking irritating because I get it, it's like acronyms, right? There's 5 bajillion acronyms and there's one made
In the
every five
military.
seconds in the
Yeah.
military. I get it.
Yeah.
But you're using very, very common things that even if you don't know what it stands for, you
Right.
kind of understand what it means. And they make it a point to fucking put it on the screen in big, bold letters like this is what they're talking about.
QRF. Quick
Yes, quick
reaction
reaction
force.
force. Oh no shit, bro. Okay.
Yeah.
So because they do that, that pisses me off that you don't state that these are supposed to be essentially Green Berets or something like that. They don't specify or anything, and you can't
Yeah.
really
So
tell by their mission set, which is a
it's
problem.
actually a question I had, and I thought maybe you guys might be able to expand a little on it because I was the whole time I was trying to figure out like what are these dudes like they have JTAC on
Well,
their arm, but it's like
John Kinley
yeah,
has
but
JTAC in his arm.
nah, there was multiple guys that had
Yeah,
JTAC.
a lot of them had JTAC
So in my
on
head I
patch
was
on their
like
arm.
that doesn't make sense because JTACs aren't like it's not a unit. JTACs are attached to teams. Like
Right.
they're a singular profession that's attached to a team. So they you're not just gonna have a group of JTACs out in out doing operating because that's not their role. That's not their job. So I just
I think that is what it was, though. I think they just kind of like we're just like, we'll just make them all like JTAC badasses, guys, and then they'll have their
I
own team and they'll go
I have to
do their own
believe
stuff.
I have to believe that they did a little
I mean, I
bit
saw no
more
other like
research.
anything saying otherwise. Like, but they do all like every guy except the fucking new guy. After their buddy dies or whatever,
Yeah.
and the new guy comes in. Everybody else has like a fucking JTAC
Yeah, on
patch
their
on their
sleeve.
fucking arm. So I uh,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know what they're supposed to be. I mean, obviously they're supposed to be some kind of operator unit like Green Beret or
Well, okay, so
not
this
really
is this
Delta
is the
Force,
thing,
but
right?
They're JTAC Navy SEALs.
Regardless what happens, I don't know who they are or what they do, and based off of what they are doing in the movie, they're doing the job of a fucking bitch ass grunt unit. All
yeah.
they do is hold a checkpoint. that is not what the fuck they're supposed to be doing. And then searching for IEDs. Okay, so now you're EOD. What the fuck are you?
Yeah.
Pick a
Yeah.
role and stick with it.
Yeah, it
Well,
needed a
they're
little
like,
bit more.
yeah, it seemed like they were like buy mart EODs, because they just put every time they found an EOD, they were just like, all right, C4,
Blow
and
it
then they ran
up.
away.
I
Which
mean, that's
honestly is a lot of what
it's
EOD
not
does,
that
but
Yeah.
far from what they
yeah.
actually
But
do.
they
They're
don't
gonna blow
have
it
any
up
like
because it's their
protection
procedure.
gear or anything. They're just like,
But anytime you deal with military movies and war movies in general, you have to have a sense of legitimacy within the operations that you show in order for people to buy into it and be able to be immersed. For me personally, as soon as I
I mean,
found
I
out,
don't think that's actually true for the majority of public, but it's just something
okay,
I
sorry, for a
particularly
targeted
hate.
group, yeah, for a targeted group, people that have served, people that have been deployed, like I think there's a certain level that you have to have. I was able to bypass it just because I can recognize when somebody may have not done as much research as they should have, and they just kind of were throwing things together. But for me, like as soon as I found out that John Kinley was a master sergeant leading a team at a checkpoint, I was like, okay, got it. Yeah, this is you guys did a lot of research. Got it. Roger that. Okay.
Okay,
Because
well, so I will say this: there is a slight difference between regular army and special forces, and the ranks reflect that. Meaning, you might see a rank and be like, "Oh, that's way too high for somebody to be doing what they're doing," but it's actually not true within that field. There are people that still do things at a much higher rank that would normally be like a commanding position. That
yeah,
so it's weird to us because that's just not the case. But to them, it may not be the case. I'm not saying in this particular case it is
yeah.
true, but
right.
that's
Well,
not unusual.
in
Well,
my head,
especially
I
in
didn't
the
know.
JTAC strike team.
Well, it's just at that
You have
point,
no
I had
idea
no
what the ranks
idea
are in
what
that
they
one.
were. I didn't know what they were at that point. So in my head, they were just a grunt, like an infantry unit holding a checkpoint. And so when I thought they were just an infantry unit holding a checkpoint, and then they had a master sergeant sitting there, like watching, I was like, okay, what? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And then later
Yeah,
on, you find out that they're supposed to be some kind of spec op something, but in the
yeah.
moment, I was like,
It's
"Alright,
it's
this
just
is weird."
annoying because throughout the movie, it's very confusing
Yeah,
of what they're trying to tell you they are and what they are showing on screen, and it's just
yeah.
something that is irritating to me throughout the movie
Yeah, it
because
probably went
I
over the heads of a lot of people because everybody just thinks that everyone that goes to war does Navy
like
SEAL shit.
yeah this is not
It's
not what
not
most
true.
people are
Yeah,
saying.
you guys
Yeah.
did Navy SEAL shit, right?
What
Yeah, yeah,
one
yeah, yeah,
1%.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
We're 1% of the population, and 1% of us does Navy SEAL shit. Less
Yeah.
than 1% of us. So, yeah, it's I don't know. But I'm glad that you brought that up because it definitely irked me as I was watching it.
Another major thing, and this is kind of a nitpick, but it just really, really pissed me off. It's in the beginning of the movie. It's when you're kind of introduced to all his team members, right? All the
Yeah.
other operators. This is some of the most fucking cringe, like scuffed, researched, like version of how they talk to each other, and their names are fucking awful.
JJ,
Nobody,
Jack Jack.
literally, everybody is just double their
Ja.
name. What's your name? John.
Yeah.
You're John. John. You're Jack. Jack. Like, bro, what the fuck?
You're
Nobody
JJ.
fucking does that.
Because
To
John and
counter
Jack
that
Jack are
though,
taken. You just get the J.
ack ack.
And then just when they're
Yeah.
talking to each other, it's so
Yeah.
forced, and I hate it
It in
so
that scene
much.
it was. In that scene it definitely was. But to counter that, a scene that I thought was really funny and like 100% happens all the time was the scene when John Kinley is trying to like do his own thing, and then he goes and meets the Bjorn Ironside guy by the copy machine, and then he's talking about, "Oh, like, did you come through for me?" He's like, "Oh no, I, I'm not gonna help you." And then he's like, "Oh, you're just playing hard to get." Remember that scene?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel like that happens all the time.
Well, yeah, but that's
It
a
is
completely different
hilarious.
thing.
No, but what I mean is like in the beginning, the dialogue felt forced and felt weird, but then like on the flip side of that, we got a really funny scene between those two guys
Yeah,
at the copy
that
machine.
was a good
That
scene.
def
It was funny. That does absolutely happen on a daily basis,
yeah, yeah,
but everything else was not good. Like
yeah,
him talking to fucking other fellow soldiers, whatever, was really bad.
yeah, and
And
I
top of
think
that, like
I feel like that was partly Jake Gyllenhaal specifically. Like his acting method was just a little off to me.
I
Just
don't know,
that.
everybody else was pretty equally as bad.
Oh
I
yeah, I'm
think they
sure.
just told
I
him
just
like be angry all
just
the
be
time, and he was
perpetually angry
yeah, and he's just
with
angry all the time.
no change in emotion the entire time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Which somebody might be, but you
Sure.
know, like it's just not something I really care for in this movie.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunate. Uh,
yeah,
Another thing too, and this is again a really minor thing. It's again with the conflicting information. Their uniform and gear, dude. Like so by the looks of them, you're like, okay, they look like soft guys, right? But then
yeah.
their jobs, it's like, well, okay, so you just look like a normal dude.
Yeah.
And there was a reference photo I think they had at the very end in the credits or whatever that there was one guy that kind of looked like them that they based on look off of,
Yeah.
but it's a little weird and like everybody looks a little different. It's kind of strange, and then especially that countered with the weapons that they're using. Bro, the 82nd
They had some
Airborne is
Gucci
not
stuff.
rocking a fucking FDE 416. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. They had some Gucci gear, bro. They had some Gucci stuff. And that
And then
416 wasn't just
the
a
effects.
stock.
No, it was of course
It was
it's you know
it was
it's fucking
kitted
decked
out,
out.
bro.
Yeah, and on top of that, like the gun effects and everything in this movie are really bad.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like I
So
said
the
Really,
dude was
earlier,
really
it's
bad.
like the
sitting on
combat
top of
shit
the
is not
Humvee
good.
and the Madu's just like shaking like it's
Yeah.
like, dude, it doesn't do that. I don't
On
know if
top
you
of
guys have
that,
ever fired one, but
like you said, the their SOP and fucking tactics and everything were fucking horrendous in this movie. And
it's
if you're
so
going to be
bad.
portraying a elite unit,
Yeah.
this is not what they're going to be doing, bro. This is like something
Ru-
my dumbass would be doing.
yeah.
Like, come on.
Their room clearing was a little cringe for me, and then just like the overall tactics seemed off. Like, why are you sending in a team of 10 guys to chase after bomb factories? Like, you should have an entire like company like devoted to
I
chasing
mean,
after.
sure, if you have a platoon, but again, these aren't EOD guys. Like,
But that's what
they
I
should
mean.
at
It's like it
least have
doesn't make
like
It's the
sense.
JTAC strike force. You guys don't get it, dude. They go out
JTAC
there and
strike
they just
force
do
with
whatever they
no
fucking want.
JTACing involved. There
And
was
they
not
did
a
no, yeah.
single fucking aircraft that was
The
called.
only
Yeah.
time they did a JTAG thing was at the end, but he didn't
That
actually ever call
actually
anything in.
wasn't him.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
didn't
so
actually
he
call
didn't do
anything.
anything.
Yeah,
Which, by the way, for
Which
you ladies and gentlemen that don't know what the hell we're talking about, um, JTAGs are basically like air traffic control in the field, and they
they're
call
attached
in
to.
air support, and
Yeah,
they get attached to teams that are operating.
when you get a
If they
3 or
need,
6 kill streak in Call of Duty, you whip out your
yeah,
goggles and you're like, strike this. That's them.
yeah.
that's a JTAG.
But you have a
Yeah.
guy for that, not
But
instead of
yeah,
yourself.
it's his job. His
Yeah,
job is to be able to do all the calculations and communicate to the aircraft. Be like, put your gigantic missile right here and
yeah,
kill all those guys.
yeah,
Yeah.
But that's what a JTAC is.
yeah. So there's a
And
team
they
of
had like 12
like
of them.
7 or 8 of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
7 or 8 of them and one unknown guy.
On top of that, too, the scene that leads up to the demise of everybody except for the 2
Yeah.
main characters, really, really bad. When you have all this stuff we were talking about that were bad, this is all leading up to that moment. And then when you get to that moment, it's like so overly dramatic and retarded because everybody does the worst possible thing. It is in the worst possible position and dies in an overly dramatic way for no fucking reason other than the fact that this movie needs it because it
Other
wants
than
to set you
yeah.
up for the main story, which is
Yeah.
great, which is the 2 main characters. But they all like one after the other, like, or like the guy in the truck blows up suddenly. After these fucking group of 5 fucking Hajis are just walking up on you with AKs, and you're somehow missing the. Yeah, it's dumb, dude.
Yeah. I also wanted to say I did not see a single person reload in this movie one time.
Because they
That is
die too
true.
much.
Yeah,
That is true.
there's not one scene where they reload. Even the two main characters when they're doing that whole story, like when Ahmed gets his AK for the first
Well,
time,
Yeah.
he doesn't
they do
reload it one time.
the video game strat, which is you ditch, you pick up a new gun,
Yeah. You pick
Right,
up a new
right.
one.
which
Yeah, he's just
actually
like, your
bothers
gun
me
good.
less than
He's like,
somebody fucking
check.
up a reload. So
Yeah,
I'd rather you just be like, yeah, I don't know how to reload this, so give me a new gun.
There's like 20 of them all over the battlefield.
I'd
too,
rather
so
Yeah.
that
grab a new
instead
one.
of like 5,000 round box mag that doesn't exist.
even when they were doing the IED shack thing, I didn't see a single guy reload.
The ID. Oh.
I mean, they
Like,
only shot
none
like
of
2
those
bullets
dudes.
and then died.
Yeah, none of those guys reloaded.
It was. There's a lot of little details that they definitely missed on, and for somebody that is watching the movie that doesn't necessarily care about those things because they're, maybe just not antiquated with that world, you might you might just look past them,
Yeah,
and
I
it
mean, it's
might not
fine if you
matter to
do.
you,
Like I said,
and
it
and it's
doesn't.
totally fine. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it
totally
doesn't
fine.
take
I
away
just
from like the actual story. It's
yeah,
just
right.
irritating. Like,
Yeah, it's irritating for guys like us that we want to see things we want to see things portrayed correctly and accurately, right? As
I mean,
much as they can. Obviously,
especially for like if you're wanting to portray elite operators, like that's just
yeah.
disrespectful.
I agree too. That like, yeah, you are kind of disrespecting the people that actually do that job because I don't do that job. I'm not Mr.
Exactly.
Cool Guy. But I do
We will never be
know
that cool.
I do know like what it's supposed to look like, and I know like very basic stuff, and even the basic stuff that they did was very,
Bad.
yeah, not good.
yeah.
So,
Like cutting a guy's neck with the flat side of the blade.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
think you're supposed to
probably
do that.
something
I don't
you
think that's the
should
way
do.
you do that.
Yeah, you should not do
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Well, let's obviously there's a lot of issues like that, and we kind of touched on a lot of them. But let's talk about some of the good stuff because after that scene, we transition into the what is the main story and what kind of separates this movie from every other military movie that's about the Afghanistan or Iraq wars,
Yeah,
and it's an incredible like 20-minute segment of movie of cinema that really really hit me pretty hard. Like I was really immersed into this section, and it really got me pretty good. Like I didn't cry or anything, but like man, the emotion that I felt for Ahmed and Ahmed's family and John Kinley and John Kinley's family, like it was a really great sequence, and basically what happens is Ahmed and John are the only ones left after a failed mission to destroy, or not failed because they ended up destroying the bomb factory, but uh, the rest of his team died, and they got separated, and they had to go on the run, and we get some very like lone survivor esque sequences of them essentially falling down hills and stuff. They didn't
yeah,
get messed up like lone survivor guys did, but they were being chased by Taliban and whatnot, and then they end up having to just survive. Unfortunately, they get to a point where John gets uh, injured
Double
and
tapped.
shot,
Yep.
and he ends up actually getting taken by the Taliban, and then has to be rescued um, by the interpreter Ahmed, and then we get this journey that Ahmed has to go on to get John Kinley back to safety, back to the
Yeah.
and he literally carries and pushes and protects John over an entire mountain range of Taliban chasing after him, cold, hot, like heat, being probably severely malnourished, severely
yeah.
dehydrated, carrying him in a wooden cart for some of the plate, literally dragging him on a homemade stretcher for a good portion of it. It's just it's a very intense and very incredible feat of courage and strength that Ahmed did, and it was pretty intense to watch. I don't know. For me, it was
Yeah.
right.
No, like Connor
Yeah.
said, it was very. This movie, once you get into the meat of it, it's very
Yeah,
heavy. Like, because,
Yeah.
like you said, their
it's very
fucking journey
charged.
that they have is
Yeah,
insane. Like
Yeah.
the
yeah,
stuff that they were going through, it's kind of like the is it the Revenant?
Yes.
With
yeah,
it's like
yeah,
that,
With
except
Leonardo DiCaprio.
in the middle
Yeah.
of a desert,
Yeah.
and it's they're being chased by Taliban instead of fucking
right.
uh,
Nature.
Indians, wolves, bears.
Indians, well, yeah, all
Yeah,
that stuff. So it's kind of like that, but in Afghanistan, and it's
yeah.
fucking crazy. The amount of stuff that they go through, the amount of like troubles and stuff that he like.
That
Ahmed
he
has to like
managed to barely escape from.
just barely survive day to day, night to night, meeting people, just kind of like hiding, like John Kinley sometimes when they get
Yeah.
real close. Like it's crazy, dude.
Yeah, at
Yeah.
one point, he's driving him in a truck, and Kinley is in the back underneath a bunch of rugs, and a bunch of Taliban guys stop the truck and hop in the back and tell him, "Hey, drive us up the road. We need a ride somewhere." Like, could you imagine how tight Ahmed's butthole was the entire time? Like,
Shit,
dude
even
was
for John
dude was
Kinley,
just
because he was just like looking at
yeah,
them
he's
like,
just
oh shit,
yeah, dude,
and
like,
he can't
oh
even
my
do anything
god.
about it.
Yeah.
Like,
He fucking they take what was it? The drug?
oh, opium.
Opium.
Opium. Yeah, that's right. They take
Yeah.
fucking opium. And it just like adds to the effect of like John Kinley's perspective of just like being in and
Everything
out
is
the
kind
entire
of
time. It's
yeah.
Yeah.
just like, oh my god, dude, what's going on?
Yeah. Well, he's got like a fucking massive ass head injury.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's got
I
a
mean he
huge
was
head
fucked up.
injury.
Yeah.
He's got
Yeah.
3 gunshot wounds, I believe, at least 3. A scene that really got me, was when John Kinley actually finally made it back home to California, and he's at his business, his work at home, and, he gets drunk while calling the people to try and get Ahmed out. And then he like throws the bottle into the mirror and it shatters the mirror, and then he falls down to the ground, and he essentially just I think what it was meant to be was he finally remembered everything, right? Like that was the moment where he relived what happened to him and Ahmed, and he finally remembered everything that happened and what they had to go through. But it was done in a way that like the perspective was inverted, because a lot of times he was laying down and looking at everything from an inverted perspective, and it just the emotion that it drew for me was really profound, and I thought it was a really interesting way of like cinematography and storytelling and writing that is a little different and unusual, and it definitely did its job. It definitely worked. Like I during that scene, I was like, "Holy crap!" Like, imagine all of those memories just started flooding back to you all at once, and you relived that whole thing again and for you, it's the first time because you had forgotten,
Yeah.
and you realized what exactly the hell Ahmed had to do in order for you to have survived that ordeal. Yeah, I can't imagine the kind of emotion that he felt in that moment.
Yeah. Not only that, like the and this is not even like his fault, like John Kinley's fault, but the fucking anger and like guilt that he felt
Oh,
when
man.
he found out
Survivor's
that
guilt?
Ahmed
Oh
never
my
got out.
god.
Because I'm sure that shit happens all the time. And
Oh,
honestly, that's
yeah.
like my biggest take point from this movie is
Yep.
how much the United States promises things to other people that help us and don't fucking deliver. It's
Yeah.
fucked.
It's messed up. They said at the end of the movie, at before the credits rolled, they said something like, the U.S. employed like
Like
I
thirty-two
want to say,
thousand.
yeah, I want to say it was like 30 or 50,000 interpreters
Yeah.
over the course of our time over there. And when we pulled out of Afghanistan in 2021, like over 300 of them were 300 interpreters that worked with us were executed by the Taliban for their
And then everyone else had to go into
involvement.
hiding.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's like over 1,000 people, a
Which I
thousand
would
interpreters
honestly
that
just
we use.
presume a lot of them died.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of them are dead,
Yeah.
and it's frustrating because like the American military, we have this big mentality of never leave a man behind, right? And we're not supposed to leave our guys behind, but like we left all of those guys behind, and they were
Yeah, I mean,
supposed to be.
there's a it's it's not exactly the same. I mean, they're not like Joe Blow next to you from fucking Arkansas. So, but they are helping us. But the biggest problem really is just if we tell them
Yeah,
that if they help us or they're going to do something, regardless of what it is, whether you're an interpreter or not, or you do anything, doesn't even matter. And you tell them we will give your family safety, you can become U.S. citizens
right.
afterwards or whatever the hell. You should honor that agreement, and that's it.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. What was your reaction, Connor, when you heard the gun shit just start? Tunk, tunk, tunk,
Yeah,
tunk, tunk.
so let's talk about the best scene in the movie. Was
Yeah.
the AC-130 gunship scene. That
I don't know about the best scene, but
for me, that was the best scene in the entire
it's the
movie.
coolest action scene. Yeah.
Yeah, that was like the coolest shit that I've because like you see it in Call of Duty and whatever,
Yeah.
Yeah.
in like real life footage that's all like blurry and shit. But to like see it in a movie and like have it look exactly like how you play it in Call
In
of
Call of
Duty,
Duty,
it was
yeah,
just
it
fucking
is
awesome.
cool. It
Yeah,
was very cool that they did the Call of Duty perspective
yeah.
of like fucking aiming through the sight and shit.
Yeah, you can
And
see
that was
through
cool.
the sight, the guy operating the sight, and then you get to see all the fucking guns firing and the dudes like loading
Yeah.
the rounds in and everything. It was fucking
It was
awesome.
pretty great. And
Yeah.
from everything that I know about the AC-130 and from people that I've actually talked to some people and know a few people that have worked and shot an AC-130. Like it pretty much looks like that. It's pretty much a video game to them. Like they just sit up there with joysticks and cameras and just like, yep, delete, delete, all of you, delete, delete,
Yeah.
delete.
Yeah, I mean any like huge fucking weapon system that just has like an electronic like guidance thing. It's just,
Yeah.
yep, you're gone, and he's gone, and deleted.
Yeah,
Same
I
thing
mean,
with
they
like
were so
drones and
chill
Tunnel
stuff.
about it
vision.
too.
It's probably
That's
the
why I love
same.
the scene because it was like there was no music and it was just the dudes being like, "There's a guy right there." And he's like, "Rounds loose," and then it's like, "Oh, he's gone." All right, next guy. It's like it's just
Yeah,
so fucking awesome because they're just like, "Yep, fuck everything." Like they don't give a shit. They're
it
just
is
like,
cool. Okay, but
yeah,
I want to say that it is very unrealistic of what happens in this, and it
yeah,
does
Extremely.
bother me, especially at the very last shot. It shows like the AC-130. It gives you like a from the sky view.
yeah, where it's like 10 feet
Yeah.
off the ground.
Yeah, it doesn't fly that low, bro. Like,
No.
Yeah,
and
They're at
it
like
does fly at
10,000
low
feet.
altitude. It is a really low altitude for a aircraft, but it is not that low. And on
No.
top of it, the amount of devastation that thing fucking does to anything is insane. And what happens in this movie is sure everybody gets wrecked, right? That's cool, but
It
they're on
should
a
have
dam.
collapsed that
That
tunnel.
fucking dam should be gone. Like the amount of fucking things they were shooting at it, there's no way. No way.
Yeah. It was really really danger close. Like
Oh
especially
yeah, it
if he
was
oh
is
yeah,
actually
yeah,
very close.
especially if he's actually a JTAC, like that's
That's a
super
fucking
danger
broken
close.
arrow thing going
Yeah.
on.
yeah. They don't have any
Yeah.
like notifiers to be
And
like, "Hey,
yeah,
this is
and
us
they
over here."
yeah, there was no moment where
That's another
they
thing too. It's like
identified themselves.
how do they even
Yeah, how they
know
know?
who they're shooting
Yeah,
at?
because on screen everybody
It's
looks the
just a bunch
same.
of
You all look
like
like
black and
heat
white
signatures.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
And it's not
there's
like they at this point. Like I
they had
feel
no
like he
communication.
no
They had no
communication.
communication.
I don't believe he had any markers on him
No,
at
because
that point. Like he
he
kind
was
of
in
lost a lot
civilian
of his
clothes.
gear. Yeah, exactly. So pure luck, I guess.
Yeah, I
Like,
guess. Movie magic, movie magic,
yeah,
plot
movie
armor,
magic.
plot armor.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was cool.
One
Just seeing
uh,
people get wrecked.
one thing that I did wish we got a little bit more explanation of that I think would have really deepened the character and made him even better than he was kind of just a little bit more background and backstory on who the hell Ahmed was and why he was just so like obviously we know he joined because the Taliban killed his son and he wants
well,
revenge or whatever, and then he also wants to leave. Him and his
yeah,
wife want to leave, but and then his brother's a drug dealer, so he probably worked with him and whatnot. But the dude was like on par, if not better, than a lot of the spec ops guys that he was working with his like tactics and his shooting and everything. Like
Okay,
he
okay,
didn't miss
okay.
very
Supposedly he
often.
was supposedly he worked for the Taliban before he switched before they killed his
Yeah, but the
what
Son.
who did they
Taliban are
kill?
not Navy SEALs. His son.
His son, yeah,
His
before
son
they
was
killed his
killed by the
son.
Taliban.
To
Yeah.
be fair, some of the Taliban, I'm sure a very select few,
Yeah, I'm sure
do
they have their
receive
own
training from
version.
probably fucking traders from other countries or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
Obviously, they get their weapons and fucking training from somebody, somewhere, at some point. But, and Ahmed was very cool. But he only looks really good because the people that you are comparing to are trash.
Yeah.
So, like, when you compare them, yes, he did look like the only fucking proficient person there. But if they had legitimate people doing their job, then it wouldn't look as bad. It would seem probably realistic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, that's a fair point. But yeah, I just think it would have made better. And I actually was talking to Kristen about this on the way home. We were talking about how I feel like this particular story could have benefited from being a TV show instead of a movie. And this is kind of what I was talking about in the spoiler free section, where I was saying that this movie had all the pieces and they gave us all the pieces to create an incredible story, an incredible um, piece of film, but they didn't necessarily execute the best. And I was telling her that like I feel like if this was like a 12 season or 12 episode season of a TV show, they could have really expanded on the things that made this show so great, and as well as or this movie so great, as well as bring up where it lacked, you know. And I broke it down for her like what I would have done episode by episode, and I won't trouble you guys with that, but uh, I think it could have benefited from being a TV show instead of a movie.
I don't.
Or what they should have done is cut out some things from what they did in the movie to change the flow.
Yeah, if anything, I would say maybe they could have changed some things. I don't know if it would stand up as well in a show because I feel like that leaves, even though it technically leaves more room for improvement, I think it leaves a lot more room for failure. And because just budgeting and like all the work that goes into making things, I feel like it would probably hamper this movie in particular more so than anything. For other wars, especially, I think it would be better as a show. But for this one, this fucking war went on for a ridiculous amount of time, and
Yeah.
I know that not everybody is gonna watch this anyways. But to make it into a show, I feel like it would have less retention
Mm.
than just making a singular story. Even though
Yeah,
it could absolutely could be better, I just don't know if they would be
I
good
guess
enough to actually do
when
it.
we're talking about metrics and how much money they can make off of their investment into the movie, yeah, I guess it would make sense to not be a TV show. I was just thinking of more in terms of the story specifically and the execution of the story, because I think the story is incredible. I think that they really had something there. They really had this unique take on a Afghanistan and Iraq war story that we've never really seen before, and the there's a section of the movie where they really executed very well, and if they had the means and the money to extrapolate that over the course of a TV show, I think it would have been really good as far as execution goes. Would it have made as much money, or maybe would they have had as big of a return on their investment? Maybe not. So that is fair point.
Yeah, but yeah, there's definitely some things they could have explored, and honestly, there's a lot of like unnecessary fluff in like probably the beginning and the end. Um, I
Yeah,
guess
well, that was
yeah,
kind of my point, that like they tried to establish characters in the beginning before they met, right? They tried to establish the team of JTAC SEAL Superman guys before they teamed up with Ahmed. They tried to establish John Kinley as a team member before his relationship with Ahmed started, which is great, and it's kind of what you want to do. But they did it in a way that didn't really wasn't really effective very well, And so I think that that's one area that could have been improved on if they had more time. But I get it, you got
Yeah.
to make the best choice possible. So
Yeah.
yeah. In the end, though, I enjoyed the movie for what it was.
Yeah.
Like I don't regret watching it. I don't, it's not like, oh, I want my money back or anything. Like I enjoyed it. And
Yeah.
for people that maybe haven't served or just don't know the finer details of the military, you probably would enjoy this a lot more because you don't look for those little things like we do. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you guys are looking for something to watch this weekend, check it out.
Yeah.
There's some big movies coming out later on this month, or sorry, at the beginning of next month. So for now, this is kind of one of the better things to watch in theaters right now.
Yeah, I look
So,
forward to the next Guy Ritchie movie with the upgraded, bigger, and better AC 230 scene. So,
AC 230.
She's a fucking railgun.
yeah, it better have 5 guns on each side. So,
Yeah. I will say that when that scene happened, which I loved it, it was great to watch. But I was sitting in the theater, and there's that moment of despair when everybody's out of ammo, and they're like, "Oh my god, we're gonna die!" This overwhelming
mhm.
force, and there's like a brief moment of like no sound or whatever as they zoom in on Jake Gyllenhaal's face. And there was like 4 people in the row in front of us that were like, "Oh wait, the gunship," and I was like, "Oh my god." It was really funny. Like it
Yeah,
sounded like some younger people that just had a moment of epiphany about it. I'm like, yeah,
yeah,
of course the gunship's coming down.
yeah,
But yeah, I thought that was really funny.
yeah,
So, alrighty, well, gentlemen, I think that wraps it up for us on this breakdown and this review. Ultimately, I think you guys are kind of on the same page as me. Go check out the movie. It was a fun one,
Yep.
yeah,
but
for sure.
it's not perfect,
Yeah,
unfortunately. So. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for joining us on the first episode of this week. We got a lot of content coming for you guys throughout this week and next week, so keep an eye out for that. There's going to be episodes coming from multiple different shows here on Any Kind Media, so stay tuned. We really appreciate all the love and support you guys have been showing us. We had a video last week that broke or got over 400 views, and it was really, really awesome to watch that thing just continue to climb in views. It was really cool. So thank you guys for that. Again, it helps to validate all of the hard work that we put into this channel. So keep an eye out for future content. We appreciate you guys as always. Please like, subscribe, comment, share with a friend. Check out our social media links as well as the other shows here on Any Kind Media. And we'll catch you guys in the next episode.
I guess.
bye.